Hey guys, in this episode we're going to talk about our trip to Tyler, Texas, and while there we did some remodeling or some recovering of our window treatments. So stay tuned. So the first thing we had to do is we had to take down all the balances, and once they were down, we had to strip some of the covering off of it because it had two layers. There's some video on how I did that. Once they were all stripped, Laura took the materials that we purchased. There's about 6 or 8 different colors, and then she sliced them up and then restacked them and pieced them back together to make different designs, like a stained glass. Once that stained glass was designed, into strips, those were sewn together, and once they're sewn together, there were some sidings put on to those so they can be put on the valances. So we didn't want to waste material that was more expensive wrapping it, so we just have the front and the sides covered with the different color material that looks like a stained glass, and then the rest of it has a cheaper material that is sewn on as to use for stapling on to each piece. So we are removing the outer layer of this balance because we're going to recover them. To remove it, it's pretty simple. I first want to remove the staples that are on the side here, along here, and along the bottom, and as well as on the other side. And then all these staples that are in here are go downward, so they're going to be poking out. So you just need to push them back and then pull them up. What I do here is I just take a pair of needle nose pliers and then grab where the staple is, and then I just twist and it removes the staple. And keep on doing that throughout the sides. So once you're done pulling the cover off, you will see that there's these wicked little staples sticking out everywhere. That's what was holding this guy on there. So all you do is just grab it with your pair of pliers and then push down. You might need some force on the tip, but then that will release or push the staple through on the paper, and then you can pull it out on the other side. As you can see, I can push those staples through, and then once they're poking out on the other end, I just grab them with the needle nose and pull them out. So now we're going to recover the balance that we took off with one that has been made. This piece here has been made especially for each one of the windows. All these pieces were cut up separately, sewed back together, and then made into one long strip. And then that strip is, we added the brown to allow for the stapling back on. And this here would be on the outside of the balance. Alright, so once you staple it, your edge, you want your edge just to cover the bottom of that balance. So the seam is just barely showing on this side of the balance. Alright, the stapling has been completed on this one piece. So we got staples all the way around to hold it in place. And that's what it looks like on the front. And then on the top, where that seam line is important, it's just past the top, so it's not visible. So our next phase of completing this project was making the curtains. Laura had the dickens of a time getting these curtains made because they're all on one rod and they're 2 layers. We bought pre-made curtains, and then they were measured, cut, and making sure that the pattern is in the same direction. And you don't want your branches upside down. Once those were measured, they were cut. We had to iron them carefully. The back side of those has like a crushed material, and the front of it is not crushed. So you had to iron the creases out of it, then put the casing for the rod in it. And once the casing's in there, she used the same border on all of them, and then the leftovers from one panel were used for other windows. Some of them are longer than the others, so there was some issue with the measurements on the lengths, but that can be fixed. These just need to be re-hemmed, and they should come out the same length. And finally, it was time to put them back up onto the windows. The back window was probably the hardest because it's very long. We had to have the curtains made and the rod screwed in to the valance before we can actually get it installed. So this is some of the images of the rear window valance in place with the windows open and closed, and you can see the tint of blue. That's because it has 2 layers. The curtains have 2 layers to each one of them, and you get that woodsy effect from the material that's on the outside. We're probably going to have them just pull back to one side and leave them as that. Here's a few images of the rest of the RV, and the balance is replaced, covered, and its last reveal. Hey, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe.